Who's most to blame here for Davante Adams still being, again, I think the NFL's best receiver, but catching only one pass, and for continuing to see his contribution slip for the Raiders?
You say who's to blame?
Yeah.
Well, it looked like Jimmy G to me.
Okay.
But I don't want to place blame on one individual.
Okay.
I think
No coaching blame at all?
I was going to get there. That's why I say I don't want to blame one thing on one individual. I also look at Josh McDaniels and I say to myself, you can put Davante Adams in much better positions to be able to utilize his talents so he can get the football and not make everything so hard on Jimmy G. If it's just solely about getting him the football, which I believe it is, because he's your best player on a 53-man roster, especially on the offensive side of the ball. You can win utilizing him. You can't win if you don't utilize it. Now, look, when you look at the two deep throws, those were atrocious. I mean, they just, I don't know what else to say. I cannot defend Jimmy G in that situation. Derek Carr, who he came there for, got him the football. He made all pro messing with Derek Carr. Derek Carr didn't finish, right? They're teammates in college. They removed him 2 games left in the season because of the contract. They didn't want to give him the guaranteed money just in case he got hurt, and they were going to move on from him anyway. But they went out and got Jimmy Garoppolo. What made them think they was getting the second coming of Tom Brady? I have no idea. I have no idea. So, yes, you are going to be frustrated because you can't help your team win. They're paying you a ton of money. You look like you, much like you said, Skip, you thought he was one of the best receivers, which he is in the National Football League. But you're looking at it, Richard, and you saying to yourself, man, they got me out here like a cardboard cutout. People think I can't even play anymore because I got this slappy throwing me the football, and I got a coach on the sideline they keep giving a job to that clearly does not get it what a head coach of the National Football League means. And they keep giving him jobs. So, yeah, he's going to be frustrated in this situation. Absolutely, 100%, and I don't blame him.
See, I like the Raiders. You know, I grew up cheering for Al Davis and the Raiders. L.A. kid, you're L.A. kid, but man,
Raiders was my team, too.
Jimmy G's my boy, you know, good friend, so I don't want to talk bad about him, but my goodness, I saw 168 yards and 2 touchdowns left on the field. 168. Key, and 2 touchdowns on 2 plays. He was wide open. He was running away from the defender. I mean, so you're not sitting there. There's nobody looking at tape like, man, Davante Adams is washed up. Davante Adams don't have it. Nobody's saying that because you can see he's wide open. He's still getting separation. He's doing the things Davante Adams has done, and he deserves better than this. You would say, hey, man, Davante, get out of there. Get out of there. Go in the office. Ask Mark Davis. Tell Mark Davis, man, I came here in good faith. I did everything I could for you guys. The quarterback's let me down. The organization has let me down. I came here for a good friend of mine and Derek Carr. You guys got rid of him. So could you please do me a solid and let me go to a contender where I can contribute and not have my career continue to be wasted the way it is, because he is a tremendous talent and he is a guy who can make an immediate, huge impact for a number of teams in the NFL. And so, man, I'm not going to sit here and talk bad about my guy, Jimmy G. But Josh McDaniels, like Keyshawn said, keeps getting head coaching jobs and keeps not doing well with them. But then you look at guys like Eric Bieniemy, who can't get a job. You look at guys like Caldwell, who did well in Detroit, can't get a job. And it's like you start to wonder, like, how are you guys doing this process? Because guys who've had success, guys who've coached well, coached hard. Eric Bieniemy had to take an offensive coordinator job at another team, away from the team he's won multiple Super Bowls with, just to prove that he's a good coach. And he shouldn't have to do this. Josh McDaniels had a terrible record in Denver, got hired again by the Raiders, and has a terrible record now. And it's like, you didn't learn the first time, and I'm sure he'll get a 3rd head coaching job because somebody else will say, it wasn't him, it was them. It's not them. Maybe, just maybe, the head coaching process in the NFL needs to change just a little bit.
Hey, Skip, so Richard mentioned, right, Davante Adams getting out of there. I don't know that anyone could take on the salary cap, or Raiders, first of all, the salary cap hit, and is there enough room to absorb his contract? Plus, on top of that, Skip, yesterday was the deadline date to renegotiate veteran big money contracts. You don't have enough time. it's about, I don't know, 5.5 hours to the trade deadline, 6 hours to the trade deadline. So you don't have enough time to get the paperwork in to the NFL on a renegotiation for them to sign off on it. So I think he's stuck probably this year still being in Las Vegas.
You want to go, Richard?
Yeah, I mean, just like with the Seattle Seahawks, the way they ate the Giants ate Leonard Williams' contract. They ate majority of it. I think the Seattle Seahawks are only paying him $643,000 or something, maybe $647,000. The Raiders can eat majority of it this year and then figure it out next year. Figure out the renegotiation next year. They can eat the salary. That's not a renegotiation. That's not an amendment. That's just saying, hey, we're going to take majority of his contract. You guys pay him vet minimum. Good luck, Davante. So it could happen. It would take a lot, Keyshawn. You're right. It would take a lot of maneuvering, a lot of work on somebody's behalf, but he's a player that's worth it. He's a player that could take a team over the top.
Okay. My turn. So, believe it or not, I was very close with the late, great Al Davis. Spent a lot of time around him, covered the Raiders for a while in their last glory days when they played you guys in the Super Bowl, as you might remember. It was a wipeout, but they got there with Rich Gannon as the NFL MVP. And Al loved throwing the football, and he loved throwing it long to all the speed receivers that he was able to acquire for years and years. Last night would have torn his heart out, and he may have been watching this from above, but if he had been here with us last night, it would have been as hard a game to watch as Al ever watched, because his Raiders, now the Las Vegas Raiders, went 1 for 9 on third, 1 for 9, and wait, they went 0 for 3 on fourth down, so that's a combined 1 for 12. They had a total of 77 yards passing, and the best receiver in football managed to catch one ball coming out of halftime, because clearly they got their heads together at halftime and said, you know what? Maybe we should get that guy the football. Let's throw him a pass to start off the second half. Oh, that worked. It went for 11 yards. It went for a first down. Well, then what happened? So it's funny to me about Josh McDaniels, you both brought up. As long as he was calling plays for Tom Brady, they were great. He looked like a genius, didn't he? Because Tom Brady might audible out of it. He might go to something else. He might tweak it. Who knows what might happen? But Tom Brady would make those plays look much better than Josh probably deserved to have them look. And last night, remember, he's not just the head coach. He is the play caller for this team. How can you justify not being able to get the ball to the best receiver in football on Monday Night Football when you have a chance to make some sort of statement? And again, Davante did drop one ball. It was a little behind, one of the best of throws, but he's so frustrated, you're just out of your mind, and you finally get one pass thrown in your direction.
At least you know.
And hey, it's late, and it's behind, but again, would Keyshawn put it in his back pocket? Sure, you would, but
he would too. But like you said, when you're so frustrated, man, it's like your mind ain't even in the damn game.
Your mind is not in the game, and I felt so sorry for him because he's a good guy, Davante Adams. He's not the typical diva receiver. He's not a complainer. He's not a look at me. He just goes out and plays. And obviously, for the longest time, he got to play with Aaron Rodgers. You want to talk about a wavelength? Aaron got to the point where he'd just throw it in his direction, in his area code, and Davante would just go snatch it. I never see things.
Well, Derek Carr did it for him last year, though.
I totally agree. So the onus to me is on the play caller for not figuring out how to, just early and often, you got to get him involved. I know Josh Jacobs got going they had that one drive. That's fine. But you can mix and match. Get your best receiver the football early and often. But this has been happening. This has been a regular occurrence. It's not increasing. It's decreasing. And it's getting harder and harder to watch. And it's getting harder and harder to defend the fact that Josh still has a job. Because at the rate he's going, surely Mark Davis is going to open his eyes at some point and say, this is just not working. So I don't blame Davante at all. And in fact, Davante took the high road after the game. That was a classy way. He just threw up his hands and said, I don't know what else to say. And if I do say something, it'll probably get taken out of context. So he just said, I don't have anything to offer.
Well,
right
maybe
now.
Skip, now that Tom Brady is a minority partner with the Raiders,
issue.
maybe he could have a conversation with Mr. Davis as well as Josh McDaniels and give them some input on how to get the football to Davante Adams.
Lord have mercy.
Well, I mean, it looked like they were trying to, those two plays we talked about, but they were just overthrows. The one backed up in his own end zone from the 2. Davante has 4 or 5 yards of separation running away. All you just put the ball on him. It doesn't have to be a dime. It don't have to be a pinpoint pass. Just give him a chance to get the football. This shouldn't be a hard throw now. Jimmy G had pressure in his face. He had a guy bearing down, but that's one that you got to have because that's a game changer. You get that, it's 21-26, and you're in the ball game early in the fourth quarter.
You are.
It's just tough, man. It's tough because he deserves better than this, and he won't get it.
So, Richard, I know you know Jimmy. You like Jimmy. Who doesn't like Jimmy? Because he's another good guy with a good heart. We get that. He has had his moments in this league. He's taken teams fairly far in the playoffs because he took one team that you were on all the way to the Super Bowl. But the problem with Jimmy G is when you need him the most, he's least trustable because Richard, you'd have another Super Bowl ring if not for Jimmy G's fourth quarter in that first Patrick Mahomes Super Bowl because, remember, it's 20-10. You guys are ahead 20-10, really, down to the 6-minute mark of the fourth quarter. But Patrick throws a late third quarter interception. He threw an early fourth quarter interception. And you're right there until Jimmy G in the fourth quarter of that Super Bowl goes 3 of 11 for a grand total of 36 yards and an interception. And if you remember, Richard, he missed Emmanuel Sanders down near the goal line, really running wide open. It's another one of those throws, sort of like last night, maybe not that wide open. But if he hits Emmanuel on the dot, we might be having a different conversation about who won that Super Bowl that night.
Yeah, but you also just said we had a 20-10 lead. You know, if you play defense and we get stops and we don't give up the 3rd and 15, I don't give up the long catch to.
You did.
We have a different ball game. So you can't sit there and blame one player or the quarterback in that situation when the defense had a lead with 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. So I'm not gonna put that on Jimmy G either. But I just feel like there has to be changes, and there won't be. There won't be. I don't understand why people keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. I like Mark Davis. I think he's been great for the league. He's doing his best with this organization, but he could have done better at picking a coach. And, you know, I go back to Eric Bieniemy, interviews for years and years and years and doesn't get a job. And it's like, I can't imagine what's going on in those interview rooms, Keyshawn. I can't. What does he have to be saying that Josh McDaniel is getting a job and he isn't? I mean, who did the Giants hire a couple years ago? Joe Judge? Like, what does he have to be saying in these rooms for them to be saying no to him and yes to Joe Judge? I'm sorry. You know, I'm sorry, but he has the pedigree, he has the resume offensively that would give him at least an opportunity at being a head coach. Maybe bad at it, but I'm just baffled that Josh McDaniels is still a head coach and Eric Bieniemy is not.
Skip, whatever he's saying in the meetings, I want to hire that guy. I don't want to hire the guy who's saying all the right things in the meetings. I want to hire the guy that we assume must not be saying the right things in the meetings because his offenses look totally different than Josh McDaniels' offense. And you mentioned Tom Brady. Of course, a lot of people can hide behind Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. I mean, coordinators hide behind great players, and then they get these jobs. You've covered this thing for a very long time, Skip, and you've seen it time in and time again.
Okay, but obviously the league decided that Eric Bieniemy was a product of Andy Reid. And even though it was said that he called plays, I don't think anybody ever bought that he was calling the plays ultimately in Kansas City. But both of you have made the point that as we've watched the Chiefs struggle this year, maybe he had a whole lot more to do with that offense's success than he was given credit for.
I believe so. And again, whether or not he was calling the plays, the fact of the matter is he was around. He had some sort of input, influence to some degree that rubbed off on the Kansas City Chiefs offense. I remember once upon a time when he was standing next to Andy Reid, and he's actually literally calling the play into the helmet of Patrick Mahomes, and they score a touchdown. The first thing the TV camera does is pan to Andy Reid, Skip, and go, what a great play call by Andy Reid. I'm like, Andy Reid is not even talking. Why is it him and not him?
That's what happened.
But look what he's doing in Washington right now. I mean, look what they just did to Philly. They lost the game, but Sam Howell had 397 and 4 touchdowns.
He did.
You think this is just a coincidence?
No.
Like, it's just accidentally happened. Sam Howell is all of a sudden a premier player in the National Football League? I don't think so. And then you look at other head coaching hires. You look at Dan Campbell. Was Dan Campbell calling a play somewhere? Was Joe Judge calling a play somewhere? I don't know. Mike McDaniel, my guy, he was the run game coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers, but still, Kyle Shanahan is calling the plays. So he still got a head coaching job. He's a brilliant football mind, so he got an opportunity. He don't even, to this day, he still don't look like a head coach to a lot of people, but he's getting the job done. So that excuse of him not calling the plays, it doesn't pan.
Again, I want the guy that does not interview very well.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, Undisputed fans. Do you want more highlights from the show? Make sure to click that subscribe button for all the exclusive content from Undisputed.